Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. Joining us today is our good friend Bix Weir from the massive YouTube channel To Roota. Bix, it's great to see you again.
It's great to be back. You guys are doing great work spreading the news of silver and why everybody hasn't invested in it yet. I don't really know, but I think we're getting there.
Well, congratulations. I saw that your YouTube channel is now above 100,000. So that's a real milestone for subscribers. I know you were all ticked off when you were stuck in the 80s for a long time. You thought YouTube was holding you back for a while there, right?
Well, it's amazing the gauntlet you have to navigate when you post on YouTube. There's so many things you can't say anymore. I'm still amazed that I'm up there. I've flirted with 2 strikes at times, and
oh geez,
it's been a crazy ride, but we're getting there.
Now, when you get those strikes, do you just have to sort of be quiet for like 6 weeks, or how long do you have to be quiet for to make the strikes calm down?
If you have 1 strike, I think it's a week, and then you can't earn any money. Obviously, during that week, you can't post. If you have 2 strikes, I think it's 3 weeks. When I get 3 strikes and you're out. So when I get 2 strikes, I just shut everything down. I don't talk about anything. So they can't ding me because they're looking for anything. Yeah. I made it to 100,000. I don't know how long I'll be above 100,000, but please like and subscribe.
Yeah. Well, we'll put the link in the description for you. But I know what you've been hot and bothered about lately is the derivatives. And you've really been tracking this a lot. The silver derivatives and how they've changed the reporting, you told us. So here's one of the slides that you sent me. Walk us through and explain to the audience what we're looking at here.
Sure. This was a shocking report from the OCC, the Office of Comptroller of Currencies. I'd been tracking the silver derivatives that Bank of America was throwing on their books for the last 2 years. And they got up to 27.8 million last quarter, or 27.8 billion. That's over a billion ounces of silver. And it was shocking how many silver derivatives were being put on by Bank of America, who is not a big precious metals derivative player prior to 2 years ago. Everything was going into silver. Nothing was going into gold or any other metal. It was all silver. And Ted Butler had seen that JP Morgan, who had accumulated over 1 billion ounces of silver, supposedly, because he tracks the deliveries over the past 10 years. Yes, they got busted for it, but they ended up keeping the silver. Now, just when they get busted is when Bank of America puts on this gigantic silver lease position. And these are all short-term leases. You can see the precious metal leases are all below 1 year. So I was tracking it all the way to last December. I'm like, this is amazing. We're going to see silver leased from JP Morgan to Bank of America, and then it is going to somebody. I believe it is Warren Buffett that is taking delivery of this silver at the end of the day, and I'll tell you why in a second. But I was tracking this, and I knew exactly how many contracts had to be delivered. These are lease contracts, so they wouldn't show up in the COMEX data. And so I had it each quarter, how much they're going to have to deliver. And I was going to watch the Bank of America precious metals values go down by these huge amounts during the year. And third quarter and fourth quarter were the big ones. I had 423 million ounces in the third quarter and 364 million ounces in the fourth quarter. These
are paper ounces, not real ounces, right?
These are OTC, over-the-counter derivatives of silver, which means they are not on any exchange. Bank of America started this silver note program. Jeffrey Christian, of all people, led me down that path to find it. The real interesting thing is this started just when the Department of Justice came in and busted JP Morgan for rigging silver, gold, and the bond market or the currency markets. Right when that happened, Bank of America starts putting on these massive silver derivatives, and it's been 2 years. And I thought this year was when they're going to have to pay these silver ounces off, because I think they are at a delivery mechanism stage during this year. So I'm looking for this report. It came out last week. I'm all excited, and the numbers just did not make sense at all. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And if you could put up the chart, So this is the chart one of the charts I've been tracking, which used to be just silver derivatives, and silver plus the other other precious metals, but not gold. Gold was tracked in the FX area, and then this big quarter, the first quarter, I'm like, this is it. I'm gonna have proof positive that these are being delivered, and I ended up with this. And as you can tell, first quarter 2022, we went from $75 billion in silver derivatives to $463 billion. Now, what happened was the OCC decided at this point in time to lump gold back in with all the other precious metals. So it completely conflates and disguises what's going on in the silver market because gold is so gigantic.
All right, so they intentionally changed the report to screw up all previous reports so that you just can't track anything consistently. We're now comparing oranges to apples and pears.
That's exactly it. And the guy who did it is the guy named Greg Coleman. Now, Greg Coleman works for the Office of Comptroller of Currencies. His job is Senior Deputy Controller for Large Bank Supervision. So this guy is in charge of the derivative for the government. The OCC is a government entity. He works for the Treasury. He's in charge of the derivatives that the large banks have. Basically, the large banks have 99% of all derivatives. Let's just be clear about that. And that's in all the data, the four largest being JP Morgan, Citibank, Bank of America, and Goldman Sachs. This guy's in charge of these banks, and he's the guy who decided, we're going to lump the gold in with the silver data so no one can see it. And by the way, Greg Coleman used to work for JP Morgan. So that tells you right there that the criminals are absolutely, I mean, the beautiful thing to me is that it shows that they are very weak right now. The silver riggers are very weak. They wouldn't
the fact
do
that they had to change the data sets and change. It's like when the Federal Reserve, all those reports, they didn't like what some of the reports were showing. So boom, they just discontinue the reports that they don't like anymore. Like money supply, or I think it was one of the key money supply ones they changed last year just because they didn't like how the trend was looking on the graph. Discontinued. It's, right? I mean, it's almost comical, right?
It's sad for my country that we've been, there's also an ex JP Morgan employee is one of the new CFTC chairmen as well. They added 4 women to the CFTC because nobody was working for Russ Benham. And one of the women that they added is an ex JP Morgan. So JP Morgan has regulatory capture everywhere you turn.
There was one other one you sent me, and this was Q4 2021.
Oh yeah. This shows proof positive the link between JP Morgan and Bank of America. JP Morgan was told to get out of the silver market basically when the DOJ came down on them. They're still the largest holder of physical silver in the world. They're the trustee for SLV, which is completely against any fiduciary responsibility that BlackRock should have. They shouldn't put the world's biggest rigger of silver as the trustee of the physical silver for SLV. But this was the report at the end of December. And as you can tell, Bank of America right there under precious metals, all maturities, 27 billion. And these are all silver, 100% silver for Bank of America. Platinum and palladium are in the other banks, but Bank of America, it was all silver. It's only 1 year. These are 1 year OTC derivatives. And that year was expiring this year. And I'm like, this is going to be amazing. And that's when they changed everything. But I'm still on the trail of, I think Buffett has these contracts. Buffett's taking delivery.
Now, what leads you to that conclusion?
Yeah. It's a longer process to go through the Buffett thing, and it won't be proven, I think, till the end. But a few things. One, Buffett tried to do this in the 1990s. We all know about Buffett buying silver on the sly. Nobody knew who was taking delivery of all the silver until Martin Armstrong figured out it was Warren Buffett. He told a couple of people, and all of a sudden Buffett had to declare it was him.
Really?
That's when the bad guys, the banksters, came in and shut him down, said, we're going to throw you in jail for this general problem that you have, unless you give us this 120, 130 million ounces of physical silver, and we will use that to start SLV, and we'll just drop the charges from General Re. General Re was one company, reinsurance company, that was breaking the law. And they said, so that was the trade-off. As soon as they dropped the charges, Buffett said he sold all its silver, and that's when the SLV inventories suddenly appeared out of nowhere. So that happened before, but going down the Buffett route, that got me, when I heard that, I started studying Buffett upside down, inside out, you name it. I know everything about Buffett. His mentor, his father, was his hero. Like, he could not even move without thinking, oh my God, my dad is so great. What would my dad think of this? His father was Howard Buffett, who was a very prominent senator from Nebraska, gave a huge speech on the absolute necessity of returning to a gold standard in the 1940s. Just a sound money guy, and Buffett absolutely idolized him. And I believe he's been lying this whole time about his interest in silver and his interest
he says he doesn't like gold, Buffett.
Right. I think he's been lying the whole time.
So what makes you think he's at a point in his life where, he's in his, I think, 80s or early 90s now, right?
92, I think.
You think he's at a point where he's like, well, they're not going to throw me in jail now. It's like, he said his reputation and his stature in the world is like, they're not going to come up with some fake charges now. I can do whatever I want.
Pretty much, other than I think he's fulfilling his father's dream of going back, taking back the monetary sovereignty of the United States of America. I think he knows absolutely that a skyrocketing silver price would destroy all of the too big to fail banks and destroy the entire system.
Isn't he also an investor, though, in like Wells Fargo and some of these other huge banks stuff?
He exited his position with
Goldman
Wells Fargo.
Sachs. He has a huge position in Goldman Sachs still.
Yeah, he exited most of those positions. And guess where he put all his money? Bank of America. And it started at the exact same time when Bank of America was putting on all these silver derivatives.
Interesting.
So, and he bought Barrick Gold, didn't he? Didn't he buy some Barrick?
No,
Gold?
he got out of that position.
Oh,
yeah.
He had it for like 6 months, and he got out.
Yeah, he owns one of the largest jewelry companies in the world. I think that's if he wanted to buy silver. But there's another company that he owns that owns massive amounts of potentially mineral rich soil, which is his railroad. I mean, when you buy a railroad, you're buying the mining rights as well, all kinds of mining rights in the railroads. And I think that, he says, oh yeah, I just loved, I think he bought BN or Burlington Northern or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's, I've always loved the railroads. He's always loved what's under those damn tracks.
Well, it's not only that, just the tracks. It's not that narrow. They often have the mineral rights all around, it's not just that narrow area
where
the tracks are. They get a lot.
Huge landowners. Yep.
Huge landowners. And they normally lease it out to the farmers around the tracks, but they own a lot of rights. Sometimes within miles of the tracks. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's what I've been diving into. But I do think we're getting there. I don't think that the transfer of all this silver from JP Morgan to Bank of America to whoever's taking it, somebody's taking it, because the physical silver is just not out there, at least on the retail side. I would say also on the wholesale side, but somebody's taking it, and these silver derivatives have a physical component to them. I think because of the number. 1.2 billion ounces is supposed, that's what Ted Butler had calculated, somewhere in that range for the JP Morgan physical silver hoarding. And then, oh, by the way, at the fourth quarter of last year, Bank of America reports they have 1.2 billion ounces worth of silver derivatives that are on their books. So,
I mean, what's the end game here?
I had hoped,
here we are in 2022, where it's early July, silver's below 20. Unbelievably so. It's breaking our heart. I'm looking to buy another monster box right now, trying to scrape together some cash. How does this all tie together? How does this get resolved?
Well, with price, you can't have a freely traded fair market value of silver unless you have an exchange. We have one exchange that the LBMA isn't even an exchange, it's an association. So it's, nobody can go in there unless you're allowed in by the club. But the COMEX is a futures and options. Basically, it's a derivative platform. They can trade derivative silver. And they do. And if you look at the volumes, they trade up to, I've seen a day that they traded 2 billion ounces of silver in a single day, which is the most ridiculous thing you can ever even imagine. But their average silver deliveries or silver volumes every single day are 300 or 400 million ounces.
That's crazy.
It's like, what? That's half the silver that's mined all year with, hundreds of thousands of people in that process. And yet the criminals on the COMEX, which is coordinated by a company called Virtu Financial. Now, Virtu Financial is a high-frequency trading company run by Vinny Viola, who was the counterparty to Bernie Madoff. I've been through this. They're trying to bring Vinny Viola into the crypto world now through an ETF. Worst thing that could ever happen to cryptos in the future also. But yeah, Vinny Viola, Virtu Financial, is an authorized participant of SLV. Now you have a high-frequency trading company with no attachment at all to physical metal, being probably the largest facilitator of trades on the COMEX. And that's how it's done.
What should our audience, let's summarize this. What should our audience be taking away from all this? Anything, just pay attention, or is there something actionable, tradable off of all this?
Right.
The only tradable thing I would say would be, I believe that this whole debacle of hiding the derivatives of silver means that they are very weak. They don't want people to know how many derivatives are going off behind the scenes in the OTC market. Clearly, they're hiding that whole thing. I think the reason they're doing that is a structured deal between JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Warren Buffett.
Gotcha.
Now, if that is the truth, we will see the end of the banking cabal. We would see silver prices go to unknown levels.
Putin's not involved at all?
I think Putin's more interested in gold, truthfully.
Yeah.
He went to the Gold Antitrust Action Committee back in the early 2000s, or he sent his number one guy there. Putin knows everything about gold.
What about this guy? Is he involved at all?
I don't think so. I think well, he understands it. I think everybody understands it.
Right.
China knows what's going on, obviously.
But, just to bring up Jeffrey Christian, there was a debate on Twitter recently comparing his data at CPM Group to the data of Metals Focus in terms of how much investment silver there is. And I think CPM Group's arguing there's only 100 million ounces per year, or in 2021, that were investment silver, whereas Metals Focus was like 280, 290 million ounces were investment silver. And I don't know, have you dug into that as to the different, those are like the two major data gathering groups, CPM Group and Metals Focus. And that's a really big discrepancy, almost 200 million ounces, what they're calling investment silver. Have you dug into that as to?
Yeah, I've dug into Jeff Christian and CPM Group and Aaron, the beginning days. Goldman Sachs bought them out, and Goldman Sachs said, oh my God, we're going to rig the market, but we need a third party to cover our tracks. Hey, Jeffrey, why don't you go start CPM Group and you can consult with all the bankers and we'll tell you what to put in there.
Really?
That con has been going on so long. And I know that number's fake anyway, the 100 million ounces that Jeffrey says, because I bought 98 million myself.
I actually texted. So I know Miles Franklin's CEO is of course Andy Schechtman. I know Bobby Belandis at Silver Gold Bull. James Anderson is at SD Bullion, so I was able to get his numbers. JM Bullion is part of A-Mark, so they're a publicly traded company, so we can see their number. Just adding up North America, I just what they told me. There's more than 100 million ounces in investment silver sold last year in just North America. And so that's not even counting Europe or China or India or the Middle East. So I'm inclined to believe that 100 million ounces from CPM Group. I mean, I'd love to ask Jeffrey how he's defining that 100 million. Is he like counting coins only or something and ignoring bars and rounds? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's the answer. But the CPM Group number just makes no sense to me at all.
Well, it makes 100% sense to me, since his job is to obfuscate what's really happening.
Mhm.
I mean, Jeffrey set up the bullion derivative department of Perth Mint before they got busted for not having anything in there. Well, they didn't get officially busted.
The CEO and the chief technology officer both resigned recently
Yep.
from the Perth Mint, supposedly over an IT project that, I don't know, $100 million. I forget the exact number, but how does the Perth Mint spend $100 million or something on an IT project that goes back? I mean,
It's a cover up.
what a scam. I mean, someone got paid there and $100 million. I shouldn't even say that number, but it was some crazy number for an IT contract that they burned through for 5 years and accomplished nothing. And
Wow.
It's not an IT contract.
What's that?
It's not an IT contract. It's precious metal derivatives that they lost.
Oh, no, but that was their excuse for why they got fired was an IT contract, correct? That was the cover?
Right.
Yeah, but
No, I'm just saying that
That was what they publicly came out and
that's
said.
what they publicly claimed for why they made the guys resign and heads rolled.
Yeah.
So-
And Jeff Christian also helped Robert Rubin go from country to country to get countries to start leasing out their gold that was sitting in vaults.
Now that was the Treasury Secretary under Clinton, right?
Yep.
And he stayed very connected in the years of following during Bush and Obama.
Mhm.
He was like a JP Morgan guy, right? Or I forget which bank he ended up at.
Goldman.
Or
I think it was
City or
Goldman.
something.
Goldman or City, yeah.
Yeah, one
They're
of
all
them.
the same, truthfully.
They're all the same at the end of the day, right?
Right.
But I know who you're talking about. And Bob Rubin was like sort of the mentor for the whole current generation of bankers that came up after him that are now running the show, right?
Yeah. Tim Geithner, why Janet Yellen's in there at Treasury Secretary? I don't, that one confused me. I met Janet Yellen.
I've heard her talk and she seems, I don't know, kind
You
of
could say
mentally-
clueless.
I do expect inflation to remain high, although I very much hope that it will be coming down now.
maybe she was a sharp cookie back in her glory days, but she seems well past her prime.
I met her in about 2001. She went to this fancy banking club that I was like, my boss was a member of.
Wow.
And it was a group of like 30 of us she was the head of the Fed San Francisco back then. And she gave a speech on why all these bankers should be investing everything they have in China and move all their manufacturing to China. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You want to destroy our country? Yeah, move everything to China. And that's where we are now.
Bix, you're always great to have on. We appreciate you coming and bringing the data and sharing the deep dive with our audience. We appreciate it, buddy.
Hey, anytime. And I've been sending letters to this guy, Greg Coleman, the guy who changed the numbers on the OCC and said, hey, if you want transparency in the market, like you guys, you're a regulator, like you say you do, split out the gold derivatives from everything else. It completely dominates everything. We have no idea what's in there if the gold derivatives are.
Did you get a response yet?
No.
Talk to you later, Bix.
Talk
All
to you
right,
soon,
take
Bix.
care.